Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Plain Soup. I'm excited for today's topic with Miss Diane Mandle. How are you doing today?
Yeah, that's great. Hello.
Hi. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you do a lot of work with trauma and sound. So, how did you get started?
I got started many years ago. I was a Chamber of Commerce director, and then I was a director of the American Cancer Society, and then I really wanted to do something that was more visceral. So I started doing polarity therapy and coaching, and it helped me with get more of a one-on-one with people. And at a whole health expo, the guy next to me was selling these beautiful bowls and Buddhist artifacts, and I didn't know anything about sound healing, and he didn't know anything about polarity or coaching. So we decided to trade sessions. And the session with sound that he gave me totally blew my mind. And during the session, I saw a big Buddha above me. And I said to him at the end, I said, I saw a big Buddha, but I thought he was sick because he was blue. Well, the blue Buddha is a medicine Buddha. So it was a sign to me that I needed to, and I did immediately started working and learning sound healing, and moved to California and decided to do it.
Wow, I love that. So, Diane, I want to ask you, when you say polarity, what do you mean by
Well, positive negative polarity is a therapy that by Dr. Stone and Rudolf Stone, and in it entails different facets of a lot of different modalities. So there's some channeling, there is some acupressure, there is some kind of Reiki, there's a little bit of everything. It's really powerful and wonderful. And it's working with the positive and negative spheres of the body and mind.
wow?
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. So, to help to bring the body back into balance, into homeostasis energetically.
That's right.
Wonderful. How do you incorporate that, or do you at all incorporate it with your sound therapy?
Absolutely. I have a school, a Tibetan bowl school, and I train people who wish to be practitioners. And when I do that, I do integrate both coaching and polarity therapy in the movements using sacred patterns of sacred geometry and things like that.
Wow. I want to dive directly into your book actually, because that just sounds amazing. So, the light bar, tell us about it.
It's called The Light Behind Bars, Transforming Consciousness Through Sound. So I've been doing this work since 2000. And a few years ago, I have my school, but I also do concerts, sound baths. And one of the people at one of the sound baths was already doing some work in the jails. And he said, I want you to go to this jail and I want you to apply, see if you can do it. The warden is pretty cool. He's very progressive. So I went and I gave him a little demonstration and he said, okay, come on over. So that's how I started. I started working through just a recommendation. I had two groups of 32 incarcerated veterans, and the first day was really, really scary, really, really different. So I went down with my bowls, all the 5'2" of me, and I went down, down, down into the great abyss of the prison and walked into this quad where there were these 32 guys sitting around in chairs and sort of like, and, taking a look at me. And the warden came in, he said, okay, this is this is a person who's going to do some sound healing with you. And immediately I saw, like, you know, little special hand movements between them. I had no idea what they were saying to each other, but you know, and the first two things I said were, "My name is Diane, and I'm so pleased to be here." And then I thought, "Oh God, I'm so pleased to be in jail with you guys." And then I said, the next worst thing I could say is, "Okay, let's everybody take a deep breath and close your eyes." Well, incarcerated veterans are not going to close their eyes in a group. But I just kept on while I was saying things to myself, trying to encourage myself that I could do this. And I started playing. When I asked them to close their eyes, there were plenty of the guys who just said, "We're not effing closing our eyes for this." Well, I just did what I knew would create some magic, and I started playing. And within 3 or 4 minutes, heads started bobbing and slouches sort of happening. And at the end of about 30 minutes of playing, I invited them to take some breaths and open their eyes. And what I saw was a huge shift. And they just leaned forward and said, "When are you coming back?" So and I did this with two different groups. Every group I had, I asked them to write down how they felt afterwards. And there was one time after several sessions that I couldn't go in. I had given them a CD of mine, and can I just read this?
Yes, please.
So I came in the week after I was not able to come in, and I got this note. "Diane, on Friday the 4th of April, I conducted a meditation class for 1 hour. I spoke on grounding our inner selves through breathing techniques. All the participants were allowed to lay down on their beds and listen to track 1, opening the heart, and track 2, becoming whole. The class was a success with most everyone resting peacefully. Thank you for allowing me to fill in for you." And so that was one of the inmates who took it upon himself to continue the work when I wasn't there. That's how inspiring it was, right? So I can never say this word, but it reduced I think it's recidivism.
But if it,
Yeah, it reduced that rate by 50%, which is huge. And a lot of these guys just, you know, there's nothing more rewarding than watching somebody grow into themselves and recognize that within themselves there's a diamond, and that diamond came into existence when they came in. And no matter what you did with that diamond, it's never gonna go away. You could just cover it up by stuff, but the sound healing helped them recover and reconnect with that diamond that says, "I am not my condition. I am not what I did." And that was absolutely transformative from being a victim to being a witness of their circumstances. And, you know, incarceration is not just being in jail, it's our blind spots, it's our own thought processes, our distorted thoughts. It's all the things that keep us incarcerated in our own whatever box we box ourselves into.
wow, that is such a powerful story. I could only imagine how you felt walking into the prison for the first time and just having to sit there in front of these incarcerated gentlemen, and you somehow have to get these I'll be a rough men to relax.
Well, I knew that the bowls would do their job, that the instruments themselves would do their job.
Wow. So was there a particular frequency to the bowl?
The bowls, the bowls that are used are ancient. The youngest one is probably 120 years old. So they were made by monks. They were made by metallurgists who lived in monasteries, and they would go out into the Himalayas and collect the seven metals, bring them back, smelt them and pound them into shape and sound, while the monks were reciting mantras and blessings into them. So that already is part of their inheritance. And that's why I don't use new bowls. I only use the old bowls because I want that. And I want the fingerprints of the monks, you know, in the bowls. And I would say the bowls are kind of like, they have a fundamental note, but it's like white light. It's each note contains all other notes. So every bowl has at least 5 harmonics that the human ear can hear. Animals hear a lot more. I've done a lot of work with dogs and things like that also. But for the human ear, we can hear about 5 of those harmonics. And those harmonics give the trained practitioner a lot of information. If you put a bowl on somebody's heart and you know the voice of that bowl and say the high harmonic doesn't happen, well, I know there's something stuck there, and I have to know what to do to bring that high harmonic back into the fullness of the voice of that bowl. And as I do that, that is already affecting the person. They're also coming back. It's just a reflection.
Open your mind and expand your consciousness. Welcome to Chakra Wonders, where style meets soul. Designed to uplift your energy and inspire your path to higher awareness. Every piece is a reflection of the cosmos and the power within you. Explore our collection and discover what resonates with your soul. Visit chakrawonders.com and step into conscious living. Chakra Wonders, conscious style for a conscious world.
Wow. So you have multiple bowls. Was there one bowl that resonated more with the inmates than others?
Well, I think in general the inmates like the lower sounding bowls. I also had bells and tingshaws, those little round things that look like flying saucers. So I had those things. And the thing is, and I also had a gong that I brought in after a few sessions. And I knew that everybody that I was working with had PTSD. And I knew that this could be a challenge for them. But I had done a national tour and I had played for veterans. And it was not, I don't play just banging on the instrument. I very, very, very slowly bring up the sound until it's ridiculously loud. And I instruct people to let it go through them, not to try and block the sound, but to breathe it through. And in every case, in places where I go often, in every place, the people who wanted to run out of the room when they first heard the gong, these are the same people that learned how to let go. And they would come back and they would sit as close to that gong as was humanly possible without being hit in the head. So it's a practice. And if you're not trained and if you don't understand about the harmonics and pace and volume and patterns of sacred geometry, then you're just playing. I mean, an orangutan could do that. And then you can do some harm. But
Wow.
this didn't do any harm because I know what I'm doing.
I love that. I love that. So why do you think, or do you have any ideas as to why they resonated more with the lower frequencies?
Well, a lower frequency is more grounding, and a higher frequency is more energizing. So this is a group of guys who are already in a state of stress. Regular meditation for them was very difficult to stop the brain, going and everything else. But when it came to releasing into sound. And, I played very gentle, and I played mostly lower tones, but I also played some of the higher tones because in a way that wouldn't shock them. Because a lot of people are depressed, so you need a little energy in that situation. So it was just finding a good balance. And as the sessions went on from week to week, I was able to play differently.
So you mentioned sacred geometry. What role does sacred geometry have with your playing?
Well, I play in certain patterns of sacred geometry, both on the gong and on and with the bowls. When I play bowls, I played them in triads because a triad is the most stable form. So I'm playing in triads, and then I may have an accent bowl, and playing a bowl in one direction, clockwise. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, energy moves in a clockwise direction, moving outward. So releasing. But if you play a bowl in a spiral in an inward direction, that's like gathering. That's bringing energy, nourishing energy. So there's releasing energy and there's nourishing. There's also releasing energy, and then there's energizing, and that has to do with what patterns you're playing. If you have somebody with high blood pressure, you certainly don't want to play in patterns that go up. You want to play all the triads going down and help them bring down their blood pressure or whatever. They're patterns of when you're working in patterns with sacred geometry, both with the bowls or the gongs. I sometimes do the star, the six-pointed star. And the six-pointed star is a sacred geometric pattern of the balance between the male and female, masculine and feminine. So it's a perfect balance. So it's a great, most of us are a little bit skewed to one direction and could use a little bit. And I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about the characteristics of the divine masculine, which is strength in everything, compassion, and compassion is a big one. And for women, it's receptivity and wisdom and unconditional love. So it's so important to bring those aspects together in ourselves. And playing in patterns of sacred geometry sets that up.
I love how you are able to just incorporate all of that, really just in a group of incarcerated men. So we're talking about bringing in energy and letting go of energy. When you're dealing with someone that's in incarceration, specifically veterans, and they tend to have PTSD, anxiety, but also depression, how do you release that energy first in a large group of people without there being some type of conflict?
Well, I sort of read the group when I'm in a group. When I'm one-on-one, I don't try and fix things. I don't try and do that. What I do is I establish a sense of trust, and I always work to release what, everybody needs releasing and grounding. And I will work to do that for several sessions until I feel the energy of a room is trusting me to do something. And then maybe I will do something that energizes, that's helps with inspiration and creativity and things like that. But no, I normally, a lot of my students try and do everything in one session. It's like, no, you've got several sessions to work with and do one thing at a time. You don't want to overfill the teacup.
I love that. So you mentioned the energy of the room. What does that feel like when you feel the energy shifting?
Well, you can feel and see it. If I see, people with your eyes closed and this is what they're doing and they're fidgeting, if I hear and see if I feel that sense of stillness, I see it, I feel it. When you sit in your room, if somebody was really angry and they walked in the room, you would feel it like that. If somebody walked into your room and was really happy, you would feel it like that, right? You would sense it, you would feel it. And I guess I'm very open and very sensitive to that.
So when we're talking about your book, The Light Behind Bars, does it just go deeply into your experience, or do you incorporate some of the experiences of the inmate itself?
Oh no, I incorporated, there are plenty of, okay, let me ask you, maybe I can read something. I'm going to just find something really quick. I should have thought about this. All of the whole book is about giving them voice. And it was also interviewing some friends who, or some people who were incarcerated for different reasons. They weren't veterans, and they were in prison for maybe 15 years. And they're the ones who wrote the foreword for me in my book. So one of the exercises was at the very end to ask them to write a letter to their future self. So I'm going to read you that letter that one of the guys wrote. Dear me, I'm writing to remind me that I'm wonderful. I've always said that children are the most honest and best at identifying security, and your gentle heart projects all the children you encounter. That is why they admire you and are drawn to you. You do have a wonderful heart. You will come on to do the integrity and hard dedication you put into all you do. As you become better at letting go of the past, the better your life will become. As all your close friends have told you, honor yourself, love yourself. Holding on to the past has not worked before, and it won't work in the future. This mistake you are going through will be part of who you are, but don't let it define you simply because this incident is not who you are. I forgive you, but most importantly, you need to forgive yourself. Be the person I've always known I've raised you to be. I forgive you for not being a good person at times, for being a thief and hijacking your life for drugs, for being self-centered and only wanting self-satisfaction. You can and will be the man you have always known you can be. You can make positive changes in your life and go on to help others. Also, I know you can.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And it's such a powerful message about forgiveness of oneself. So are a lot of the other stories very similar to that?
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love how you were able to really not just touch the hearts and minds of these inmates, but to reach out to their souls and show them that there is a true inner light.
Yeah.
That's so
And
magical.
so, I mean, in all the work that I've done in 27 years, I think that was the most rewarding, beautiful work. And also being able to touch the hearts and the souls of these men who some of them looked pretty scary, and they were just beautiful souls.
That's so wonderful. It's truly a message of how, regardless of what life has thrown at you, you still have that light on the inside. As you said earlier, you still have that diamond. You
And
still
what I'm trying to do is to get this into the hands of the people who can make a difference. The people, the police, the wardens, to bring more sound healing into the jails.
it would be wonderful. It'd be great if we could have your CD being played just in, we could start with the smaller jails and start getting some more of the inmates, not just interested, but really relaxed and allow them to have a little bit more introspection. But
Yes.
yeah, we only have a few minutes left. Is there anything you want to leave the audience before we go?
Was there anything I'd like to say?
Yes.
I'd love for people to have a look at my website, soundenergyhealing.com. And there's a lot of information for you out there who are listening. And I'm just honored to be on your program. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for coming on. And can we find your book on your website as well?
You can find my book. I have 3 books, and you can find them all on Amazon. Just put my name in. And also, all my music is on Spotify. Just put my
Are,
name in.
are,
Spotify.
all- are there links? Can you send me some links to those? And we'll make sure we put that into the description.
Some links? Just
Yeah.
my music on Spotify? Okay.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of Onion Soup. We have all those links in the description, and as always, please have a blessed rest of your day.
Okay. Bye-bye.